All right, guys. I am Justin, and I want to talk about John Elliot. John Elliot was one of those guys who came over from England, and he ended up evangelizing the North American Indians, and he was part of the Massachusetts colony. He lived a couple miles outside of Boston, and he had a congregation in Roxbury. And a few things about him that stands out to me is he went against the grain of what the ministers were doing during that time. So they had a twofold role. They were to minister to their congregation, and they also were to evangelize, they were to evangelize the heathen or the Indian. And a lot of them didn't take evangelizing seriously. In fact, they just focused on their people. But John Elliot didn't. At the age of 40, he became really serious about evangelizing the people, so much so that he learned a language that was very hard to learn from the Algonquin tribe. And he ended up translating the whole Bible, New Testament and Old Testament, through a period of years. And he also wanted to establish land for the Indian people because, a lot of their land was being taken. In fact, the New Englanders thought that the Indians dying off from these diseases that the New Englanders brought in from England, they thought that this was from God so that they could have land. And I just think that's so crazy and actually really corrupted and evil to think that. But that was their mentality during that time. And we have those same kind of mentalities today as far as it may not be as vivid or clear to us, but there's always something that we're being tempted with that's evil. And so thinking about my own ministry, trying to reach my community as a pastor, trying to reach my community of people that don't look like me or not like me. Elliot is a great example of someone who invested in people that were not like him because he knew that they needed Jesus. And so he started his own basically a place called, they became the Praying Indians, the people that he was investing in. And they had freedom there for a while, but there was a lot of war going on between the colonies and the Indians and King Philip over in England. There's a big war that ends up starting. It's actually one of the bloodiest wars in American colonial history, according to Ruth. And what happens is a lot of those Indians that Elliot invested in, they were exiled or either killed. And when they ended up coming back from the Boston Harbor of the Bleak Bear Island, not a nice place to live, when they ended up coming back to where they once were, and things were never the same. And some of them went to liquor. Some of them were killed just by just cruel, mean people. And it seemed like a failure in a lot of ways, but really God used Elliot to lay down a foundation to reach the Indians. He started the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel, which the Anglican Church would end up using that to actively work in the American colonies, and it was significant in reaching the Indians. And he said this, and this quote is really powerful. "I can do little, yet I am resolved through the grace of Christ. I will never give over the work so long as I have legs to go." And I really appreciated that mentality of, as long as I'm able to go, as long as God gives me health and gives me the opportunity, I'm gonna remain faithful. And I think that's a great testimony to all of us in ministry, especially for pastors, to not give up. As long as God gives us the opportunity, and we have the people, and we have the opportunity to invest, and we have a community and a body of believers, to invest in spiritually, and a community to reach for the gospel's sake. As long as we have legs, we're going to keep going. So, and another thing about John Elliot before I close, he was very slow in his discipleship as far as baptizing the Indians. He wanted them to understand. And I like that. I appreciate that about him. He cared about their spiritual maturity. And I think that's something else we could apply to our lives too. Thank you.